We are a people, perhaps a nation, that roots for the underdog. Who of us doesn't share some of the triumph of a Rocky knockout, or wasn't hoisted up with Rudy under the cupola of Notre Dame University? Some people here even cheer for the Redskins. Who here has trained with the Karate Kid? Wax on and wax off, all of that. In that movie, we watched Danny, the underdog, against Johnny, an angry martial arts trained ex-boyfriend of Danny's current lover. We watched Danny progress into moral maturity under the tutelage of Mr. Miyagi. But how? Not all at once, but wax on, wax off. That brings us to today's underdog in the gospel, Lazarus. Contra his antithesis, the rich man, dives in Latin, for those of that who matters. Interestingly, in the movies, in sports, literature, and politics, I can identify with the underdog. No wonder we relish in the triumphant moments when an oppressor is toppled. They got what's coming to them, we say. We so identify with the little guy. It's not the first time Luke leaves a rich man nameless, remember. Certainly a Christian value to root for the underdog. Definitely a Lucan value, as he so often paints the distinction between rich and poor in the text. But, in this gospel, as perhaps many of you do, unlike the movies, I identify firstly with the rich man, not the underdog. I don't identify right away with Lazarus. I feel immediate guilt. I did not give the man at the stoplight at least a kind word or a wave. Anyone else? Nothing wrong with this reflection. I need to be reminded, we need to be reminded, not to be like the rich man, but that is not the same thing as being like Lazarus. I investigated that contradiction, to so readily imbibe in Rudy's joy on the one hand, and yet to so quickly identify with the upper dog, if that's a word, in the gospel on the other hand. It seems to me that it may mean one of two things. The Spirit has moved me thus. As we have already stated, the importance of being reminded of the man or woman at the light. So it's good to have that reflection that I am the rich man sometimes, or even most of the time. But is it perhaps that I am afraid of going into myself and meeting the Lazarus there? The Lazarus at my door. To see the sores and pus that mutts lick from, to smell putrid, foul, festering, and burning wounds. See, this is the reality of the rich man now, why Lazarus enjoys benevolence, because he already made this journey on earth. St. Jerome says that it's not the tongue of the rich man that's burning him, but his mind and his heart, from his memories and empty relationships. If I may get psychological and paraphrase Carl Jung here, he said that which we need is in the place we are least wishing to find it. This is the archetype of the hero's journey, of the passion of Christ, of the underdog winning the fight. They have moral courage. They go all the way down and rise from underneath the impossibilities. And yet I am so far from that journey. Amen. But can we meet our Lazarus this week in prayer and begin to see it in the bosom of Abraham? Interior recollection and neighborly compassion are part of the training the rich man did not undertake. Do not make this mistake. Psalm 11, foundations once destroyed, what can the just do? Like Abraham telling the rich man, what can I do? Chasm. No Ubers around. We're better off than the rich man now than he was. We have the prophets and Moses and the resurrection of Christ to compel us. Even less excuse. So train in prayer. Allow Christ to meet the Lazarus in you. And you know what happens to these wounds? Wax on, wax off. Train at liturgy. Be aware of the Spirit's dance through the heavenly song. When you trail off and zone out, abide again in His love. Wax on and wax off. Train at charity. The rich man passed Lazarus every time he left his quarters, for he was at his door. It's no coincidence today Pope Francis unveiled a bronze statue of migrants. I'm not going to tell you to wax that literally. I'm not going there with this. You guys are tough today. It's Sunday. It's the resurrection day, y'all. Today is the resurrection day, y'all. But Pope Francis unveils this bronze statue for the World Day of Migrants that we're celebrating and praying for today. And they placed it at the door of St. Peter's. I.e. our door, brothers and sisters. Do not ignore them. That's my wax on, wax off. Unlike the prodigal son and dishonest steward immediately preceding this parable, the rich man did not recover from his moral catastrophe. The prodigal son realized his moral corruption and returned to the Father. The dishonest steward last week had to face an impending moral landslide, and he returned to relationships of his peers. Relationship is the antidote to moral corruption. Namely, our relationship with Christ. We are all on the edge of a moral catastrophe at any moment, and the ones who don't believe this are closer. The rich man did not train. He did not return to relationship. While Lazarus was met by angels at the moment of his death, he was first met by relationship. The rich man's lonely. We know Christ meets us first. We do not make the first move, but we train anyway. Prayer, sacraments, charity, wax on, wax off. Yes, in the end, Danny, the Karate Kid, wins the fight. He beats the angry, privileged, moral, corrupt opponent. Not Johnny of Cobra Kai or whatever it was, but himself. You too have won the fight. More rightly, Christ has won the fight in you. We know the end of the movie, but until then, train, wax on, wax off.